Let me tell you something that most people won't say out loud. A man does not propose because a woman is beautiful. He does not propose because things feel good. And he does not propose just because everyone around him says, "She's a good woman. Don't mess this up." No. A man proposes when three internal responsibilities line up. And if even one of them is missing, you don't get clarity. You get delay. You get excuses. You get "let's see." Islam never treated marriage as a feeling you fall into. It treated it as an amānah you step up to, something you will answer for before Allah. That's why this is uncomfortable, because it means a man can respect you and still postpone you. A man can admire you and still keep you in maybe. Not because you're lacking, because something in him is missing. So if this feels a little too accurate, good, it's supposed to. Because most people think proposals happen when emotions are strongest. But men move when something heavier turns on inside them. Something that makes drifting feel irresponsible. When those three responsibilities align, you don't have to chase a man into seriousness. He becomes serious. Now, let's break the first responsibility. And this one is where most men fool themselves first. Number 1. He trusts her character enough to risk his future. Let's say the part people like to soften. Men don't hesitate because they're confused. They hesitate because they're afraid of choosing wrong. Marriage isn't a compliment, it's a risk. It's tying your future, your peace, your children, your reputation, your akhirah to one person. So when a man delays, it's rarely about attraction, it's about trust. Not trust that someone is kind when things are easy. Trust that when life gets heavy, she won't become the problem. This is where Deen stops being a label and starts being a filter, because anyone can look religious when it benefits them. Anyone can say the right things, but character shows up when there's nothing to gain. How limits are handled, how responsibility is treated, how people are spoken about when no one is listening, how consistency looks when attention fades. And this is where many people get uncomfortable. A man proposes when he believes this person will protect the home. Not just enjoy it, protect stability, protect values. Protect him from regret, not push him toward it. That's why the Prophet ﷺ didn't tell us to choose based on charm or excitement. He pointed directly to Deen and character, because those are the only things that hold when life stops being gentle. Not because they sound nice, but because they last. Until that trust forms, admiration stays admiration, interest stays interest. But when it clicks, when a man believes, I can build with this without destroying myself, that's when hesitation starts to die. And that leads straight into the next reality. Because even when trust exists, there's another fear that keeps men frozen longer than they admit. Number 2, he no longer fears the life, consequences of choosing her. Here's a truth that sounds harsh, but it explains a lot of silence. Many men don't delay marriage because they don't want it. They delay because they're terrified of what marriage might cost them. Not emotionally, practically. They're looking at the world around them, rising expenses, unstable jobs, endless comparisons, and asking themselves a question they rarely admit out loud. If I choose wrong, will my life fall apart? And in today's culture, that fear is constantly fed. Everything is measured. Income, lifestyle, social image. What will people say? Can I maintain this? Will this slow me down? Marriage is no longer seen as a partnership, it's seen as a risk profile. And that pressure doesn't just affect men, it quietly affects women too. Many sisters today are sincere, grounded and ready, but they're living in a society that taught men to value comfort over commitment and security over sincerity. So when a man hesitates, it's often because his mind is running worst-case scenarios. What if this marriage limits me? What if expectations keep rising? What if I can't keep up with the lifestyle everyone else is showing online? What if this choice becomes a lifelong regret? This is where Islam cuts through the noise. Allah never promised marriage would be easy, but He promised that taqwa brings clarity, not confusion. The Quran reminds us that provision doesn't come from calculations alone. It comes from Allah in ways people don't expect. That doesn't mean irresponsibility. It means trusting Allah without being paralyzed by fear. A man moves toward proposal when this shift happens, when fear stops being louder than faith, when the future stops looking like a trap and starts looking like something he can face with dignity, not because everything is perfect, but because he realizes that avoiding responsibility doesn't actually protect him. It just delays growth. And this is where many people misunderstand the delay. They assume hesitation means disinterest. Often it means fear, shaped by a society that taught men to build everything before they're allowed to choose someone worthy. But when a man finally believes that marriage is not the end of his stability, but the beginning of a barakah, that fear loosens its grip. And when that happens, delay starts to look pointless. Number 3, he stops seeing marriage as a burden and realizes delay has a cost. Let's be brutally honest, a lot of men aren't not ready. They're just comfortable. Comfortable in a life where nobody can question them, where they can earn, scroll, sleep, repeat, where responsibility is optional and consequences feel far away. And they call that waiting for the right time. But here's the reality check. The right time doesn't arrive. It gets built, or it gets missed. Most Muslim men today don't delay because they hate marriage. They delay because marriage looks like pressure, expenses, expectations, family interference, comparisons. What will people say? The fear of never being enough. So they keep pushing it forward like it's a heavy box they'll lift later, until life exposes the lie. Because delay isn't neutral. Delay has a bill. Years pass, and the same man who said, "I'm figuring myself out," is still figuring himself out. The income changed, the phone changed, the friends changed, but the discipline didn't. The responsibility didn't. The emotional maturity didn't. And quietly, good opportunities slip away, not because women are too picky, but because indecision makes you look unsafe to build with. Then one day, the thought hits him, not in a romantic moment, in an ordinary one, sitting with family and realizing there's no stability in his life, watching a younger cousin get married and thinking like, how did he become serious before me? Feeling the loneliness after another busy week and realizing he's built a routine, not a future. And that's when the switch flips. He stops seeing marriage as a burden and starts seeing it as structure, as barakah, as a home that organizes him. Not because marriage magically fixes everything, but because living without responsibility doesn't fix anything either. Allah describes marriage as sakan, a place of calm and settling, not a performance stage, not a luxury item, a home. And men who finally understand that stop acting like marriage is the end of their freedom, they realize it might be the beginning of their stability. So if a man keeps delaying until life is perfect, he's telling you something real. He's still protecting comfort more than he's choosing growth. But when he realizes delay has consequences, when he feels the cost in his own life, he doesn't need chasing. He starts building. And building men don't keep seeing where it goes. If something felt uncomfortably clear while listening, it's probably this. Men don't change because they're convinced. They change when something inside them finally aligns. When trust replaces hesitation. When fear stops running the decision. When comfort stops being the priority. That's when proposals happen, not because someone begged, waited, or proved their worth, but because a man finally stepped into who he needs to be. And that's important to understand. Because delay is not always a statement about a woman's value, and commitment is not something you can force by giving more of yourself. Islam never taught us to chase certainty in people. It taught us to look for clarity, responsibility, and intention. So if you're a man listening to this, take it as a mirror, not an accusation. And if you're a woman listening, take it as understanding, not a verdict. When it's real, you won't have to drag it forward, and when they don't, waiting longer doesn't change the outcome. If this helped you see things more clearly, leave a quiet, Ya Allah, grant us clarity and sincerity in our choices. in the comments and say Ameen for someone else who's trying to choose right. Until then, choose growth over comfort. This is Islam Explorers. I'll see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.